from Joe Kiernan and Rick Santelli. This just came out, and we'll just play that for a second.
Personal income is up 0.8%. That is
0.8% pulled up by the rich people.
It's almost triple the expectations. I'll tell you, the income numbers, really, for the first 4 months of the year, they're stellar. They're really stellar.
The first 4 months,
go back and look at the first
rich people have gotten richer. The gap is growing.
4 months of many different years, really very strong numbers, and you're right. This administration is criticized for just about everything under the sun. I've never, ever in my lifetime had glimpses into the politics of an administration in the form of transparency like this one. Why don't we be,
You mean with fake news? Like make America healthy again with fake reports, fake sources, which is put out by the government?
Credit where credit is due. Income really shooting up.
Rick, I also thought everybody was going to get one last order of imports that were going to be tariffed, and they were loading up on things. How the hell did they already fix the trade, or not fix it, but to cut it in half? That's crazy.
When no deals have actually been finalized, not a single one of the Chinese deals, the European deals, or any of the trade tariffs have gone through and been finalized. They've just been taxed highly by the government.
There wasn't a lot of front loading of things that they needed before the tariffs hit?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it really does call into question some of the conventional wisdom. And, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next month when we get this number, or we see some of the other numbers like current account, see how they fared. Because I don't know, I've been watching these numbers a long time. I don't think I've ever seen the trade deficit cut in half in 1 month.
Not bad. Not bad.
Come on, guys.
It seems to be false information, fake news, because that was a Trumper on CNBC. The stock show.
Those numbers, and it'll only get better. The tariffs are so important, and that's why we were so happy with the decision yesterday, where the tariffs continued. Because without
how's that ketamine feeling?
Would be imperiled. We would really be imperiled. I think I can say that with great surety, Scott and Howard. And so we were very happy to get that decision, that big decision yesterday. And today it's about a man named Elon, and he's one of the greatest business leaders and innovators the world has ever produced. He stepped forward to put his very great talents into the
He's got a black eye. He's got a black eye. You can see it.
And I just want to say that Elon has worked tirelessly helping
Look at that black eye.
Sweeping and consequential government reform program in generations. And the kinds of things that he's found and his people have found. He's brought a group of very smart people in, and they found things that are pretty unbelievable. I have to say that the numbers that...
Like canceling Social Security for people that were 100 years old when it was just part of the rubric in figuring people's age, and cutting Social Security benefits for children whose parents have died, and it's passed on to them so that the children can survive.
We're talking about are substantial, but they're going to be very much more substantial with time, because many of the things that we're working on right now, we're going to have to remember Elon as we find them, but the numbers could double and triple because many things, we don't want to go out with them until we're sure, but we've found things that are unbelievably stupid and
Yeah, like firing everybody who worked on the nuclear weapons program. Just cut them right off and just told them to go home. And then they're like, oh, you guys run the nuclear weapons? Well, what are we going to do? We can't fire those people. We better hire them back. That's stupid.
Unbelievably bad. With the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon's delivered a colossal change in the old ways of doing business in Washington. Doge has installed geniuses with an engineering mindset and unbelievably talented people and computers. I actually asked Elon one time, what's their primary thing? And they have a lot of primary things, all having to do with being smart. But he said that
Yeah, the 17-year-olds that are working for him, working on the computers, who worked scams when they were in high school.
the thing that they're really the best at is working with computers, so that they can't be outsmarted by somebody that's not so honest, that happens to also be good with computers, but not as good as these people. But the mindset in the senior ranks of every federal department, and it's really changed. And with Elon's guidance, they're helping to detect fraud, slash waste, and modernize broken and outdated systems. So as you know, we're talking about various systems and changing systems, and sadly, it takes a long time to do that. You'll change.
Yeah, especially when you do it the right way. You have to go through Congress. You have to get it approved by everybody. You can't just make an executive order that gets held up in court and do all the crap that you've been doing to the government, and cutting people's health care and Social Security, cutting the WIC and SNAP benefits. You can't just do that.
We're bidding out
It takes
the
a
best
while.
companies in the world. Those systems right now, they were horrible. What the previous administration was horrible. What they did, they spent billions and billions of dollars, and in the end, it didn't even come close to working. They tried to hook up wire to copper, and it can't be done.
Wire is made out of copper. He's talking about fiber optics. Get it straight, idiot.
And they just spent billions of dollars and just wasted money. Actually made the system much worse. So we're going to get a brand new modern system. Congress is working with us on that, and we're going to get it done as quickly as we can. But it's in the works, and once it's done, it'll be good for 30 years. But we have a system that's 48 years old and would have a modern computer hooked into a very outdated computer, and they don't hook up. I mean, they didn't.
Biden was working on that. If he would have got reelected, he would have had it fixed the right way, because nobody's that stupid that tries to hook up a copper wire to fiber optics. Some of these things are self-explanatory, and they take time to be done.
Hook up. So after spending billions of dollars, they turned on the system, and in never any cases, from local to countrywide, they never worked.
And right now, they're still screwing it up in Newark, because Elon took over the computers and had AI working everything, and the computers are going down constantly.
75,000 bureaucrats have voluntarily left their taxpayer-funded jobs to come out and...
Because he fired him. He fired all those air traffic controllers.
Really do the job. Countless wasteful and unnecessary contracts have been terminated.
He's talking about contracts for women, the government contracts for DEI, the contracts to help black entrepreneurs.
That bought Taylor Swift.
There was 100.
Got to back this up to the beginning, because I had to switch channels so you can see the stock market. He starts talking crap, but everything's down. Everything's down. And then the other show, wages are up.
Because many things, we don't want to go out with them until we're sure, but we've found things that are unbelievably stupid and unbelievably bad. With the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon's delivered a colossal change in the old ways of doing business in Washington. Doge has installed geniuses with an engineering mindset.
So he starts lying, and then the stock market goes up.
Computers. I actually asked Elon one time, what's their primary thing? And they have a lot of primary things, all having to do with being smart. But he said the thing that they're really the best.
He said, "What's your primary thing?" When he was the one who appointed him to cut out efficiency, he says, "What's your primary objective?" Duh.
That is working with computers, so that they can't be outsmarted by somebody that's not so honest, that happens to also be good.
Russian computers are faster than ours.
But the mindset in the senior ranks of every federal department, and it's really changed. And with Elon's guidance, they're helping to detect fraud, slash waste, and modernize broken and outdated systems. So as you know, we're talking about various systems and changing systems, and sadly, it takes a long time to do that. change
NASDAQ,
let's say
S&P,
a system at IRS
Dow.
and computerize it properly where the job can be done in 1/10 the time, but it takes
AI is
it takes
stupid.
sometimes years to rebuild those systems. But we've started, in many cases we've started. I will say that this has less to do with Elon, but the
AI has a
traffic
white
control
bias.
systems, we're bidding out to the best companies in the world, those systems right now. They were the previous administration was horrible what they did. They spent billions and billions of dollars, and in the end, it didn't even come close to working. They tried to hook up wire to copper, and it can't be done. And they just spent billions of dollars and just wasted money. Actually made the system much worse. So we're going to get a brand new modern system.
Everywhere
Congress
else
is
it's working.
with us on that, and we're going to get
Except
it done
where
as quickly
Elon's
as we
got in
can.
at New
But
York.
It's in the works, and once it's
New
done,
Jersey,
it'll be good for 30 years.
New York.
But we have a system that's 48 years old and would have a modern computer hooked into a very outdated computer. And
Everybody modernizes their computer. Apple even comes out with a new phone that's modern every 6 months.
they don't hook up. I mean, they didn't hook up. So after spending billions
It's
of
something
dollars,
that has
they
to be
turned on
done.
the
You have to
system,
update
and
your
in
computer.
never any cases from local to
And if Biden would have been in, they would have updated their computers.
more than 75,000 bureaucrats
Or
have voluntarily
Harris.
left their taxpayer-funded jobs.
She's not stupid.
To come out and really do the job. Countless wasteful and unnecessary contracts have been terminated, and you know that we have terminated.
The good old
many,
boy
many
network
contracts,
is
and
still
many contracts
working,
Elon,
though.
are right now being looked at, and it may be 6 months, it may be almost a year. In some
Canceling
cases,
all the black
because we
contracts,
proceed to
canceling all the
remove voice.
contracts for women.
And we'll remember you as we announce billions of dollars of extra waste, fraud, and abuse. Just as an example, Doge canceled $101 million.
$101 million in DEI
DEI
contracts. That's what I'm saying.
$1 million.
$1 million.
A small section of the Department of Education. $59 million.
That's
for illegal
159.
alien hotel rooms in New York City.
That's a lie.
And the landlord never made the kind of money that he made in the last short period of time. $59 million to a hotel in New York
That's a
City.
fake
$45 million
figure.
for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma.
Okay.
Does anyone know about Burma? 42.
Yeah, Burma, they were giving them USA aid and helping the people there fight oppression with DEI
for
contracts.
Social and behavioral change in Uganda. $40 million.
Social
for
and
the
behavioral
social
change.
and economic inclusion of
In Uganda, they were actually funding feeding programs and fighting AIDS
sedentary
from USA
migrants.
Aid.
I can say it's $2 billion to Stacey Abrams and her environmental movement. There was $100 in the account, and all of a sudden they found $2 billion in the account. And I assume that's being
To
looked
help
at. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I assume
Georgia
it's being looked at.
with
Think of that, $2 billion.
alternative
And
energy
then,
programs.
Lee will tell you there's another one over there for $20 billion.
They canceled that.
Being spent
Okay,
on
20.
another environmental program. 20 billion.
20
Not
billion.
million, a lot.
Environmental
200,000,
programs.
which is a lot.
To help the
So
environment
in her case, you
to
have
move forward with
$100, and
renewable
all of a sudden,
energy.
She gets hit with an
And that
infusion
number's
of
probably
$2
fake.
billion just before I take office. $20 million for Arab Sesame Street in the Middle East.
They're trying to spread love through Sesame Street in the Middle East so that people want to come to America and spread love here.
Nobody knows what that's all about. Nobody's been able to find it. $8 million for making mice transgender. So they spent $8 million on making mice transgender. And those are
How much have they spent on mice research throughout the year? The government spends more than that every decade for shampoo, everything they test mice on.
better than many of the others. I could sit here all day and read things just like that, but we have other things to do. So it's much.
But it's much more than that. Doge has spent $112 billion themselves thus far in the first 100 days. We're almost going on 200 days now. And in the first 100, Doge has spent $112 billion. None of those programs that he talked about cutting even add up to $100 or $50 billion.
More than just that, we're totally committed to making the Doge cuts permanent and stopping much more of the waste in the months to come. We want to get.
Wait till he
our
starts
great big
lying
beautiful
more,
bill
and then
finished
the numbers
done.
go
After
up.
that, we're going to be. We put some of this into the bill, but most of it's going to come later. We're going to have it cauterized by Congress, affirmed by Congress.
Because
In
that's
some
what they're
cases,
supposed
we'll
to
make
do.
cuts. In some cases, we'll just use it in a different layer to save the money, but
Give it to the
hundreds of
rich.
millions of dollars. Doge has also fully modernized the federal retirement process and continues to work very hard on the IRS modernization, but we're taking that over with Doge. Many of the Doge people, Elon, are staying behind too, so they're not leaving. And Elon's really not leaving. He's going to
A bunch of kids.
Forth, I think. I have a
He's
feeling
going to be coming back and
it's
forth.
his baby, and I think he's going to be doing a lot of things. But Elon's service to America has been without comparison.
Oh, his
in modern
buddy,
history. He's already
Elon.
running one of the most innovative car companies in the world. You
They're
look at
close.
his factories and compare them with some of the old factories we have, and it's a big difference. And the most successful space company.
Can you see that black eye?
I guess in history, you would have to say.
Can you
the
see that
largest
black eye?
free speech platform on the internet, etc. Yet Elon willingly, with all of the success, he willingly accepted the outrageous abuse and slander and lies and attacks because he does love our country. I know that very much. He loves our country. He comes from another country that's going
From
through,
South Africa,
trials and tribulations.
he was
I would say.
pro-apartheid. He
But,
wanted to keep
he's,
black people
all
under
about
control.
The USA and Americans owe him a
Like
great
most of the
debt
white
of
people
gratitude.
that
So
were
I just
there
want to thank Elon
at the
for
time.
his
The white
time.
people there
Special government employee, can you imagine?
are living in the land of milk and honey.
Special government employee, and for coming and helping us. And
Apartheid was modern slavery.
A lot of people thought, maybe we'll cut 1% or 2% or 3%. Then they said, wow, we can cut a lot more than that. And we're going to do it very surgically. We're going to continue on the march. We're making America great again. When I was in Saudi Arabia, we were in, as you know, three really great countries, predominantly the three. Qatar was great, UAE was great, Saudi Arabia, incredible. Such an incredible experience to be in those three countries. But the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and I must tell you, the great leaders of the other two that we just mentioned, they all said the same thing, that the United States is the hottest country right now anywhere in the world. And 6 months ago, we thought it was dead. It was like a
Baloney. They pulled out a USA aid out of Africa, and they've also cut out cancer research from all these other universities. And China has stepped in with training and helping with AIDS research in Cambodia, Nepal, Mongolia, Ethiopia, Somalia, Nigeria, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. They've also had financial assistance, infrastructure assistance, and various forms of support. And the United States has pulled back from all that, and China is taking over all of that. So China is now the world leader in humanitarian aid.
Dead country, and it would have been a dead country if we didn't have the right result on November 5th. There would have been a horrible, horrible situation was going on with the borders, with transgender for everyone, men playing in women's sports, and so much more.
There's 10 men in college playing in transgender, 10 in the whole country playing in college sports, not in professional sports, in college sports. Maybe in high school there's more, but they're not. Who's promoting that? Nobody's promoting that. They're just trying to let those people live their lives, and it'll all play out, because I'm against men playing in women's sports. That's just stupid. And everybody is aware of that it's not right. Only a few people would say, hey, that's fine for a man to play in women's sports, and that's just stupid.
But they were saying the hottest country anywhere in the world. And then I played that little clip because that was one person who's respected, or two people, because Joe was in that one too. Joe's a good man. But
They're
that
both
was
Trumpers.
one group of people saying
Trump liars.
something about the success of what we've done over the last 4 months. They cannot believe it.
They're against raising the national minimum wage to $15 an hour. They're against it because the companies have to pay more.
In the one case, they said they've never seen anything like it as long as they've been doing what they've been doing. They've been doing it for a long time. So I want to thank Elon for helping. And again, the United States right now is the hottest country anywhere in the world. There's no country as hot, and we're doing really well. We came when I left.
What is it? France, Spain, England, Germany have all issued warnings to all their tourists that when they come to the United States to be aware because of the harsh immigration baloney and ICE people deporting people and locking them up because they've been doing that to people from foreign countries who are here on vacation. They've been grabbing people and locking them up and talking about deporting them when they're just here on vacation.
We had no wars, we had no problems, we defeated ISIS, we rebuilt our military, and we had no inflation. And when I came back, we had a lot of inflation. We had wars all over the place. We had the embarrassment in Afghanistan where we gave up billions and billions of dollars of military equipment.
The timeline for the withdrawal in Afghanistan was set by Donald Trump. And what Biden did was adhere to the laws that were written in the books, and they could not do everything in that timeline that they wanted to do. Like bring some of the Afghanis here that actually helped the United States.
Embarrassing moment in the history of our country, I believe that's
partially your fault.
We have Russia with Ukraine. We had the attack on Israel in October, the horrible attack, October 7th.
I forget which one it was, but they were shooting down planes. I think it was in Vietnam when the United States pulled out of Vietnam. They were shooting down the planes. The North Vietnamese were shooting down planes. People don't remember that. A lot of people weren't alive then, but they were shooting down the planes leaving Vietnam when the United States pulled out of Vietnam.
Horrible, horrible attack. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And now we have something where we're really healing a lot of that. We stopped India and Pakistan from fighting. I believe that could have turned out into a nuclear disaster.
Just like you stopped the Israeli and the Palestine people from fighting. He says he stopped it and made everything great, da-da-da-da. He's going to build a Trump Tower in the middle. They're still fighting. They're still killing people. They're still slaughtering the Palestinian people who don't have an army, who just throw rocks and homemade weapons.
And I want to thank the leaders of India, the leaders of Pakistan, and I want to thank my people also. We talk trade, and we said we can't trade with people that are shooting at each other and potentially using nuclear weapons. And they're great.
So trade was the trade while killing people was at hand. We're going to stop trading with you.
Leaders in those countries, and
that's strong. Not saying we're going to send in a battleship and start shooting down weapons or become peacekeepers. We'll just stop trading.
They understood and they agreed, and that all stopped. And we're stopping others from.
They
fighting
stopped
also,
because they wanted to stop because they were done. They made their point.
In the world, we have the greatest leaders in the world. We put one of them in charge of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, as you know, General Raisin Kane, and we wiped out ISIS, completely wiped out ISIS in 3 weeks. They said it would take 5 years, and we did it in.
I don't know who they were. That's a lie. United States did a 100-day war in Afghanistan and wiped the slate wipe the country clean of all that, what they were trying to do.
3 weeks. And that's the way it is, but we don't want to have to use our military. We want to be peace through strength when we can. And that's the way we're going to have it. So I just want to thank Elon and all of his people. Most of those people are staying, almost all of them are staying, and they're going to be with us. And you're going to see the results coming long into the future. Even a year and 2 years later, you're going to see a lot of the results, and those hundreds of billions of dollars are going to be adding up, and they're going to continue to add. It'll be interesting, really interesting to see what the final number is going to be. But again, Elon gave it.
Trying to save money, and his budget plan is going to increase the debt. That's not saving money by $4 trillion. $4 trillion, not millions or 100 billion. $999 million or billion dollars plus another $1 billion makes $1 trillion. He's raising the debt by $4 trillion.
An incredible service, nobody like him, and he had to go through the slings and the arrows, which is a shame because
He's on drugs.
an incredible patriot. The good news is that 90% of the country knows that, and they appreciate it, and they really appreciate what he did. And I gave him a little
He's
special
a Nazi.
something we have here,
Thank you.
a very special, that I give to very special people. I have given it to some, but it goes to very special people, and I thought
He's looking right at him.
I'd give it to Elon.
Give it to
as a
Elon.
presentation from
He doesn't look
our
at
country.
there. He's looking at him.
Thank you, Elon.
Looks at him.
Take care.
He looks right at him. Looks 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 at him. He's looking at him.
This is amazing.
He's looking at him.
Large lot.
Well, let me say perhaps a few words that this is not the end of Doge, but really the beginning. My time as a special government employee necessarily had to end. It was a limited time thing. It's 134 days, I believe, which ends in a few days. So that it comes with a time limit. But the Doge team will only grow stronger over time. The Doge influence will only grow stronger. It's I liken it to sort of Buddhism. It's like a way of life. So it is permeating throughout the government, and I'm confident that over time we will see $1 trillion of savings and a reduction in.
He said $1 trillion. It sounds like
$20
$20.
forward reduction. The calculations of the Doge team thus far.
That's kind of a Mitt Romney
in terms
move to
of
come in and cut
FY25
waste.
FY26 delta
And
are over 160 billion, and that's
Mitt Romney would come in and cut out a bunch of employees and make everybody work twice as hard, and then they don't have to pay the employees so much, and their bottom line stays the same. And so the stock goes up. Then Mitt Romney would sell the stock and make millions.
declining. We expect that number will probably go over 200 billion soon. So I think the Doge team is doing an incredible job.
All their numbers have been falsified.
Doing an incredible job, and I'll continue to be visiting here and be a friend and advisor to the president, and I look forward to times being back in this amazing room. By the way, isn't this?
Are you high?
This incredible.
It's so beautiful. Oh.
It's stunning.
Oh.
Wow. The Oval Office, how the president has just completely redone the Oval Office. It's beautiful.
He redone the Oval Office and the rest of the White House, and normally that is the First Lady's job. He's been doing the job of the First Lady with redecorating.
I love the gold on the ceiling.
Thank you. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's been there a long time. That was
Look at
pasture.
him.
Nobody ever really saw
Looking
it.
at him.
You
They
know,
look at
nobody
each
goes
other.
up there and
They look at
we
each
highlight
other.
it. It's essentially it's a landmark, a great landmark. And
Look, oh,
That's
wow.
24 carats.
It's so
gold.
beautiful.
Everybody loved it, and now they all see it when they come
Oh,
in. So
wow.
It's been good.
The Oval Office finally has the majesty that it deserves, thanks to the president. So
It's always
so
had
of course,
majesty.
Continuing to be a friend and advisor to the president, continuing to support the Doge team, and we're
And if it's so nice, where's your suit, dickhead?
relentlessly pursuing.
Where's your suit?
$8 trillion in waste and fraud reductions, which will benefit.
Dressed in all
American
black like it's a
taxpayer.
funeral.
So
Where's your suit?
uh,
How come you're not wearing a
that's
suit?
it, really. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Look at them. Look at each other. Nice and... Wait, back that up. Watch the handshake.
That's it, really.
He looks over,
Thank you.
looks over,
Great.
looks at him. There's the handshake. He does a.
Thank you, President Trump. The president mentioned that you had to deal with all the slings and arrows during your time at Doge. There's this.
Well, some of the people, some of the media organizations in this room are the slingers.
Well, so there is a New York Times report today that accuses you of blurring the line between.
Is the New York Times, is that the same publication that got a Pulitzer Prize?
Yes.
For false reporting on the Russiagate?
There wasn't false reporting on Russiagate. While Donald Trump was a candidate, he had Jared Kushner and some of his team trying to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. While on the campaign trail, he was saying, "Oh, I have no dealings with Russia. I don't deal with Russia and this and that." Meanwhile, behind the scenes, he was actively trying to get land in Russia, in Moscow, for Trump Tower. And they sent Paul Manafort over, and he joined the Trump team, Paul Manafort, for nothing, for free, so he can bring in Russian ideas and Russian propaganda into the administration that Putin wanted. So he worked for Donald Trump, a Russian asset, for free. Him and Flynn was taking money from Turkey, but they were both foreign, basically paid by foreign entities, and they worked their way into the United States because Trump's an idiot.
Is it the same organization?
Yeah.
I think it is.
It is.
The Russian hoax?
I think the judge just ruled against New York Times.
The Russian hoax? Why hasn't he put any tariffs on Russia? He put tariffs on penguins. He put tariffs on the whole world, but Russia, because he's scared Putin has something on him, and the Russia gate is still real.
For their lies about the Russiagate hoax, and that
It's not a hoax, buddy.
That Pulitzer Prize. That New York Times. Let's move on.
Okay.
The New York Times is a great paper.
So President Trump.
They got
Biden
pictures.
aides
They got
used to
pictures of this box of pills that he's been taking.
work here are in talks with Republicans in Congress to go and testify about what they did or didn't do to possibly conceal President Biden's decline. Do you think that Dr. Jill Biden should also have to come in and testify about what she did or didn't do?
Well, I hate the concept of it. It's the wife of a man who was going through a lot of problems and everything.
So who does you confide in? You confide in your wife. They know you. You sleep with them. You see them every day. So that's who would know the most about it. So he's scared to have people talk to his wives. That's the problem he has with it.
Understood that, and I guess it came out during the debate loud and clear. That was the biggest signal of all. They have to do what's right.
One of them mysteriously slipped down the stairs and fell and died.
Dishonesty in the election, as you know, of 2020. That's been now caught. People understand it was a rigged election. And
Yeah, there was a rigged election in 2020, and he lost. That's bullshit.
when you go
He lost in every single state that they recounted, and they recounted, and they recounted, and he lost every district, every court. Nothing was overturned in those votes, and he still is a sore loser. He lost in 2020.
further out, when you see the auto pen, I mean, I think the auto pen is going to become one of the great scandals of all time, because you have somebody operating it or a number of people operating. Because I knew Joe Biden. Joe Biden wasn't in favor.
He's talking about Joe Biden in the auto pen. I think in the first 2 weeks, he was like, I didn't sign that. I didn't sign that. And it was it wasn't executive orders, but it was a bunch of policies that were come out of the president's office that he was like, I didn't sign it. I can find that footage. But there are people that were signing stuff for him in the beginning of this administration with the auto pen.
Letting 21 million people into this from prisons and mental institutions.
They don't have 21 million people in jail. Only the United States has millions of people in jail. All the countries around the world combined wouldn't have 21 million people in jail, because the United States has more people in jail than any country in the free world.
Gang members, he wasn't into that at all. And, who signed these orders, proclamations, and all of the different things?
Gang members don't want to leave their country. They want to stick with the cartels, sling drugs, and have fun, do what they want. They don't want to come here. They come here, they get put in jail. Gang members stay in Mexico so they can join the cartel. That's a stupid assumption.
He signed that set our country so far back, that was so bad for our country.
With the auto pen, how would it work? Like, we're in the Oval Office right now. If there was a group of rogue staffers that worked for you who wanted to advance a bill or an executive order without your knowledge, how could they do it? How did
It happened already.
they go
Well, it's very
behind
hard
a
because
president?
I'd read your newspapers or your media the next day and I'd say, well, I didn't approve that. And I would
And he's
find
done that already.
they wouldn't get away with it for long because they'd say, I never signed that. Who the hell signed that? Auto pens.
I forget
to
what it
me,
was for,
are
but
used
that's
to
happened
sign,
already.
Letters to people, because we get, I think they said 20,000 letters a week.
I'm going to skip forward.
And about 81, I think it was 81 proclamations and statements to people that I think should be signed by us. I think when you write letters to foreign dignitaries or presidents or prime ministers, you should be signing those letters, not done with auto pens. I understand he signed almost everything with an auto pen. It's a very dangerous thing. It really means you're not president. Whoever operated the auto pen, and we think we know who that is.
Oh, then why haven't you done anything? Because they're working in your White House.
And it was actually more than one person. But that's not what the presidency is all about. I hardly used to hear.
Reinstate the tariffs on China. You said that they violated the agreement with the U.S.
Well, they did. They violated a big part of the agreement we made. If you read that whole statement.
A big part? What? Humanitarian aid?
Nice to them. I helped them because they were in trouble with the stoppage of a massive amount of business. But I'm sure that I'll speak to President Xi and hopefully we'll work that out. But yeah.
He says, hopefully I'll speak to President Xi and work that out. And then
That's a
the
violation
stock
of the
market,
agreement. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, can you give us an update
Boom.
on the latest
It went from
ceasefire agreement that Israel has
minus 12 to
agreed
7
but Hamas still considering?
Well, they're
to
very
1.
close
Now,
to an
boom,
agreement
it
on
went right
Gaza.
back up.
And we'll
As
let
soon
you
as
know
he said
about it
he
during
talked
the
to
day,
President
maybe
Xi.
tomorrow, and
He just
we
said
have a
he
chance
talked
of
to
that.
him.
And I think we have a chance
So-
of making a deal with Iran also. They don't want to be blown up. They
stock
would
market
rather
goes
make a
up.
deal, and I think that could happen in the not too distant future. That would be a great thing if we could have a deal without bombs being dropped all over the Middle East. That would be a very good thing. They can't have a nuclear weapon. We want them to be safe. We want them to have a very, very successful nation. Let it be a great nation, but we can't have them. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. And I think we're fairly close to a deal with Iran.
They had a deal in place about that so that they can enrich and get nuclear power to their power grid, and Trump canceled it. They had a deal already where they would not enrich uranium to weapons grade, was already in place, but he canceled that. So they can do whatever they want right now.
You said just now that you look forward to being a friend and advisor to the president. So do you expect to continue advising the president and Doge informally, or are you going to sort of shift your focus entirely to your companies?
Look at him. He's looking right at him.
Continue to provide
He's
advice.
looking right
whatever the
at
president would
Elon.
like. Advice.
I hope so.
I expect to remain a friend and an advisor, and certainly if there's anything the president wants.
See
to
that
do,
black eye?
At the president's service.
Look at that black eye.
You said that there was $1 trillion promise for cuts from Doge.
Yes, I think we do expect over time to achieve the $1 trillion.
But what have you found in your time here was the biggest roadblock to getting those cuts? Was it the cabinet, or was it Congress, or something else? What was the biggest roadblock from your work?
It's mostly just a lot of hard work.
Nobody. The
It's
cops were on
really
their
not,
side were stopping people from going into the Department of Education.
Going through really millions of line items and saying just each one of them makes sense, what does not make sense. Obviously, at times when you cut expenses, those who are receiving the money, whether they're receiving that money.
Okay, fast forward to baloney.
Many times we can't even find anyone who defends it. So for a lot of the expenses, there is actually no defender at all. And then we have to just go work through the
See the black
process
guy?
of stopping the spending, where there's often literally no defender. Nobody even knows why the money's been spent. It's truly absurd. I mean, we find situations where there are millions of software licenses. With 0 people using them.
Because they don't have the technology
Exactly.
yet.
This is the
It's
critical expression. You're like,
a license to
surely,
move forward,
if there's
progression.
software licenses, someone should be using them. No, and then we've got to go through the process of saying, okay, look, if no one's using the software, we can terminate this software license agreement. That's everywhere in the bill, by the way.
Mr. Musk, what do you think would be easier, colonizing Mars or making the government efficient?
It's a tough call, but I think colonizing Mars and making life multi-planetary is harder. And as I said, we do expect to achieve over time the $1 trillion of savings. We can't do it in like a few months, but if you say by the official end of Doge, which the president may choose to extend, is the middle of next year. Say by the middle of next year, with the support of the president and Congress, could we achieve $1 trillion of savings? I think so.
$1 trillion, not $20.
Do you think that Congress is going to?
Thank you, Mr. President. You had mentioned earlier in the week that Doge had become a whipping boy, and as the president mentioned, you went through a lot to go through this process.
Yeah.
Was it worth it for you, and what would you change?
Yes, so what we found was happening was that if there were any cuts anywhere...
Was it worth it for you?
Then people would assume that was done by Doge. And so we became like essentially the Doge...
I gotta switch the camera angle so the head won't look so stupid.
Any cut anywhere would be ascribed to Doge. A friend of mine's daughter who's at law school at Georgetown thought that Doge had cut the Senate, the internships, the legal internships for the Senate, and we have nothing to do with that. So if they have been cut, it's not to do with us, just as an example. So, it just became a bit ridiculous where any cut anywhere was sent on Doge, including things that made no sense, and we would agree made no sense. There are many things that occur in the government because it's the banal evil of bureaucracy. It's sort of the frankly largely uncaring nature of
Uncaring?
Uncaring?
While he cuts aid to starving children and gives tax breaks to the billionaires.
That's how federal spending is. And then you can't really even blame the individuals because the way the government works is complaint minimization. So when you do when someone within the government tries to stop that money being spent, there's usually someone that complains. And then their manager will say it's not worth the trouble, just pay it anyway. That happens over and over again.
So was it
I think it was an important thing. I think it was a necessary thing. And I think it will have a good effect in the future.
Thank you, President Trump. This week there was a video on board a plane.
He said, "Thank you, President
that showed
Trump."
The First Lady of France slapping her husband, Emmanuel Macron. Do you have any world leader to world leader marital advice on
Make sure the door remains closed. That was not good. No, I spoke
Do
to
it
him,
behind closed doors.
He's fine. They're fine. They're two really good people. I know them very well, and I don't know what that was all about, but I know them very well, and they're fine.
He looks over at Elon.
the Democratic Party plan to avoid being swept in every battleground state again by spending $20 million to study how to speak to American men?
Well, they spent 2.8 billion. We spent 1.5. We spent much less. We spent about half of what they spent, and
because you have your own platform on X,
$1 million short.
and what was Twitter and the Truth social media were connected to everybody. All you got to do is tweet. That doesn't cost nothing.
Learn how to talk. That's fine.
Everybody else has
You don't wanna
to
be
go
fake.
through
You
the
should
regular
let the
routes
hire
of
consultants say-
commercials.
Say what America needs, because, then they should be, the consultants should be running the deal, not them. But I read that they want to spend a lot of money in each state, so we won all 7 swing states, 7 out of 7. We won a lot more than that. We won the
Because they
popular vote, we won
canceled
everything.
with
And
a
they wanna
Trump
spend
rule
money to find out what they did wrong.
that said, or the
I can
government,
tell you what they did wrong. I can
the
tell you
GOP
every
governments
one
in
of their
individual
programs.
counties passed
When
rules so
say
that they
men
could have
playing women's
vigilantes
sports, I would say
question
that's not a
votes,
winner.
and they
When say
canceled
transgender
four
for
and a
everybody,
half
I think that's not a
million
winner.
or 4.5
When they say,
million
open
Democratic
doors to the
votes.
entire world population of criminals
He wouldn't have
to
won. He only
vote.
won by 3
I
trillion
don't think that's a winner.
or 3 million. I'm
I
sorry,
just gave them that for free.
but they canceled
But,
4.5
I don't know if they'll change
million
their ways. I see it
Democratic
all the time.
votes
I see people that
during
are
this
no
election.
Congress Democrats,
It's-
they're trying to
look it up.
justify some of the things I just said. You can't justify them. I always hear that.
That's why you see such big protests everywhere, because
97-3, they might be 99-1.
he didn't really
They're not
win.
80-20. They
It was
wish
the
they
same
were
amount of
80-20.
votes. He got
they're wasting a lot of
75
money.
in this
They're gonna continue
election.
with that
The last two he got
nonsense.
72.
Well, page 6 question, but back when he hosted the
He was
apprentice,
able to cancel a lot of Democratic votes.
Diddy was a good friend of yours back then. He has since found himself in some very serious legal trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Would
So
you
was
like to
Epstein.
consider pardoning him?
Well, nobody's asked. You had to be the one to ask, Peter, but nobody's asked. But I know people are thinking about it. I know they're thinking about it. I think some people have been very close to asking. First of all, I'd look at what's happening, and I haven't been watching
He'd
it too
pardon
closely,
Diddy.
although it's certainly getting a lot of coverage.
He'd
I
pardon
haven't seen
Diddy
him.
if
I
it was
haven't spoken to
popular
him in years.
with somebody.
He used to really like me a lot, but I think when I ran for politics, he sort of, that relationship busted up from what I read. I don't know, he didn't tell me that, but I'd read some little bit nasty statements in the paper all of a sudden, It's different. You become a much different person when you run for politics and you do what's right. I could do other things, and I'm sure he'd like me, and I'm sure other people would like me, but it wouldn't be as good for our country. As we said, our country's doing really well because of what we're doing. So it's not a popularity contest. So
The GDP has went down.
The facts.
The amount of money coming into the economy to the government has went down.
It wouldn't have any impact. Right?
It's just the opposite. He just lies.
On the big beautiful bill, would you like to see the Senate
real
vote
numbers
to
is it's
support
shrinking.
tariffs on the big beautiful bill, or should that be a standalone bill?
I have great support on the tariffs. I mean, I was so honored that we got that ridiculous stay lifted, because that would have taken away presidential power. It would have taken away everything that was granted by the founders. It would have been a terrible thing. And it would have, most importantly, would have left us vulnerable. We have a lot of countries that use tariffs on us and use them viciously, actually, viciously. And if we didn't have the power to use tariffs on them, and instantly, not when you go back to Congress and try and get hundreds of people to agree on something, that would take months to get just one simple proclamation.
That's the process.
If we didn't have the power to counteract their powers, you wouldn't have a country left. We have to act fast. We have to be fast and nimble, as they say.
To subvert
And,
the Constitution,
that was a really
go
great
around the Constitution
moment, I think, yesterday,
constantly.
when that
That's
stay
why
was
he's
lifted.
constantly
Hopefully now
in
we'll
court.
Go to court and just win that battle. Because if we don't have the power to,
He's got the
do what
Supreme
they're
Court
doing
on
to
his
us,
side
we are
because
gonna
he
be a great
appointed
nation
3 of
no
them.
longer.
But they still are striking down some of his
He
crap.
was idolized by folks on the left in this country before joining your administration. Now he's considered a hero by conservatives. Why do you think this man and what he's done in American life has been so politicized? Does it
Well,
only
his life has been amazing. I mean, I look at so many different things. I look at that rocket being, guided back into position. I've never seen that before. I thought it was a space movie. I thought it was a movie. You look at what he's done in terms of communication. It's been unbelievable. So many different, even tunnels going underground, not having to go through all the process of going, he's got a company that does that. He's got so many different companies. Starlink, as an example, he saved a lot of lives, probably hundreds of lives.
Has he gave any money to the people? Has he funded any AIDS research? Has he funded any cancer research? Has he donated anything to any humanitarian needs? The richest man in the world is a selfish pig. He's a Nazi. He doesn't like black people.
was.
And he does the Heil
people
Hitler
had no communication. They had
in
no access to anything.
broad
They
daylight
were
in
dying.
front of the cameras and
And I
everything.
called up Elon, and you
He's
can't get it
a
'cause it's so
Nazi.
successful. It's very hard to get. And he had so much of it brought over there, and they told me it was unbelievable. It saved a lot of lives. So, he's just done a lot of things. I don't think he gets
Hitler
credit
did a
for
lot
what
of
he said.
things.
But he's a very good person too.
And he wasn't a good person, but he was good to the people around him. He fed his wife and kids.
Probably, maybe
He was such a good
He
man.
happens to be a really good person who
Oh,
loves the
he was
country.
a killer.
One big, beautiful bill. You had indicated this week that there were some things you didn't like about what had passed in the House. What changes do you want to see the Senate make? And you had also indicated there were things you didn't like about the bill. What would you be suggesting he push senators to change in their version?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll go first. It's an unbelievable bill. It cuts your deficits. It cuts, it's a huge cutting.
No, it doesn't. It raises the deficit $4 trillion.
Bigger cut in taxes.
3.8.
It's going to be the largest tax decrease or cut in the history of our country.
For the rich
I'd
people.
like to see it get down to an even
Mildly for the general public, but the taxes go up, and in a year and a half and 3 years they keep going up. But for the rich people, they stay.
When you look at the tax cut and the fact that the original tax cut, which made us so successful, we had the most successful 4 years in the history of our country, the economy, and this is going to be even better. And
He forgot about COVID and how he tanked it.
Yesterday or tonight, I guess they were released this morning at 8 o'clock. You see the kind of numbers where somebody that's a pro is like, whoa.
He's such a
I haven't
liar.
seen numbers like this since I've been doing this. These are
Liars.
human emotions of professionals that have never seen numbers like. And we
That's
just,
a big blackhead.
The bill is a great bill. It's going to be jiggered around a little bit. It's
Look at
going
the
to
size
be
of that blackhead.
negotiated with the Senate, with the House. But the end result is it extends the Trump
There's
tax
blackheads
cuts.
all over that
If
nose.
it doesn't get approved, you'll have a 68% tax increase. You're going to go up 68%.
What is
That's
that?
a number that nobody's ever heard of before. You'll have a massive tax increase.
A
If it does
massive
get approved,
blackhead
you'll
in
have a large
volcano.
tax cut, the largest we've ever had. When you add the past tax cuts that we got you, the Trump tax.
There's
they
so
call
much
it Trump
makeup
tax
in
cuts.
there.
It's
That's
an
why those
amazing
blackheads
bill.
show
It
up.
does amazing things. With all of that, it's going to be adjusted a little bit over the next coming weeks, and I think it's going to be passed. The Republicans want to pass
Look
it.
at the Dow.
With all of the great things it does, including an extension of debt, it's the extension. We have to extend the debt. If we don't extend
From
debt,
the
we're in
lies.
default. Now, the Democrats might like our country to be in default, but in 250 years, we've
Democrats have never wanted the country to be in default. That was always initiated by Republicans like Ted Cruz.
Because he thought it was the right thing to do. It could have been their problem before the election, but this man thought it was the right thing to do, and he was well-meaning. I don't hold anything against him for that, but that was put on our plate when it should have been on the Democrats. September 20th.
He inherited the best economy in the history of the world.
Democrats, but this person, a man of power, gave it to us so that in June that comes due. Well, we have to take care of that, because if we don't take care of it, we have a country in default, and we don't ever want to have a country in default.
But whenever it's happened, it's been Republicans doing it.
Senator Elizabeth Warren said that she would never, ever allow a default on our debt. She would never let it happen, and she would like to get rid of the debt ceiling.
That's
the
what
debt ceiling. I call it
I'm
the
saying.
debt
The
extension,
Democrats
because we
aren't
need
for
an
defaulting the
extension
government.
That she'd like to see that gotten rid of, and there are many.
Whatever.
Her whole career, she wanted to see it. It should simply be extended, but that's one of the things that gets taken care of in this bill. That automatically.
I had
gets
to fast
extended
forward
for
because
a 4-year period.
Elizabeth Warren's always
And it should
right,
be.
just
But
about.
I agree with Elizabeth Warren on that. I think you should get rid of it. It's too catastrophic.
No, you can't get rid of the debt ceiling because it's got to keep Congress in check and spending.
International students, are they still welcomed to study in the
I bet he's misspeaking
And
on
one
that.
question for Mr. Musk.
The students, well, we want to have great students here. We just don't want students that are causing trouble. We want to have students. I want to have foreign students. I think Harvard,
He wants to shoot them like they did at Cal State.
Our country's given
Who were
$5
protesting for
billion
human
plus
rights.
to Harvard over a short period of time. Nobody knew that. We found that out. I wouldn't say that was a Doge thing, but we found that out over a period of time. That was sort of a Trump thing.
Yeah, it's a Trump thing because Harvard didn't let Barron Trump go to Harvard. They denied his application, and then he got pissed because Obama's kids went to Harvard. Obama went to Harvard. All the other presidents have went to Harvard, Ivy League schools. There's probably 20 of them, and he's never been to an Ivy League school, and neither are any of his kids. So he went after Harvard, and Harvard does cancer research for the United States government, and so does a couple other prominent colleges. So he cut their funding. So we're going to fall behind in cancer research because of him and his petty grudge against Harvard.
In litigation for other reasons because they're very anti-Semitic. And in
That's
finding
baloney.
out and in going through the books, we found out that the country gave them $5 billion plus, much more than that actually. And we're having it out with them, and let's see what happens. I think we have a very good, well, it's a very sad case. It's a case we win. We can't lose that case because we have the right to make grants. We're not going to make any grants like that. But I don't think Harvard's been acting very nicely. I think Columbia wants to get to the bottom of the problem. They've acted very well. And there are other institutions too that are acting, but Harvard's trying to be a big shot.
Ooh, it's so pretty.
All that happens is every 3 days we find another $100 million that was given. 2 days ago we found $200 million more. The money's given to them like gravy. I'd like to
They're
see
giving
the money
them
go to
grants
trade
for
schools, where
for
people learn
cancer
how to fix
research,
motors and
diabetes,
engines,
all
where
kinds
people
of
learn how to
research.
build rocket ships, because you know somebody has to build those rocket ships.
Yeah.
And
He
I'd
doesn't
like to see
grant
trade
nobody
schools
any
set up,
money.
'cause you could take $5
The
billion
richest
plus
man in the world keeps all
hundreds
his
of
money
billions
to
more,
himself.
which
He
is well
doesn't
spent. And you could have the greatest trade
provide
school
any
system
cancer research
anywhere in the world, and that's what we need.
or
to
food
build
for the
his
hungry.
Rockets and robots and things that he's doing.
He's a
and to build
Nazi.
Lots of other things, and you know, I went to school with people. In some cases, they
And-
weren't good students.
And some of the
But they
teachers
could
said he
fix
was
the
the
engine of a
dumbest
car better
student
than anybody
that
I've
they've
seen.
ever
They could
taught.
take it apart blindfolded. They had an ability at that.
Because his dad had
And they
pulled
did
to
very
get him
well.
into
They did
these
a lot of money.
universities.
It's a very skilled job. It's
And
great.
those teachers
But
were like,
I'd
"This
to
is
see
the
a lot of money
dumbest
going into
student
trade
I've
schools.
ever
I've always
had."
felt that, and we probably found our
Donald
pot of
Trump.
gold, and that's what's been wasted at places like Harvard, and the money's been wasted. Yeah, places.
Yeah, I wanted to ask quickly, Mr. Musk, what is your eye okay? What happened to your eye? I noticed there's a bruise thing.
Well, I wasn't anywhere near France, so.
Look, he's looking at him. He's looking at him. He's been looking at him all off and on the whole. I never noticed his eye.
I didn't notice.
He didn't notice.
Yeah, no, I just wasn't around with.
He didn't notice. He's the closest man to him, and the guy standing away from him can see that black eye, but he's sitting right there, the most with the best eyes anybody's ever had ever. He can't see that black eye on his face 2 feet away from
I didn't
him.
notice it, actually.
He didn't notice it.
I know that you try to stay pretty neutral.
I didn't really feel much at the time, and then I guess it bruises up. But I just wasn't around with the kids.
I didn't notice it, actually.
I know that you try to stay pretty neutral because not your war.
He didn't notice. He's supposed to be superior being. Guy standing right next to him, he can't see shit.
Right, and so
Excuse my
not your
French.
war, but as you try to fix it, and as you survey this hellscape of the Ukrainian front lines,
It's horrible.
and you and your team deal with a very stubborn Vladimir Putin.
He does nothing to Putin.
Zelensky.
But do you look at this
Very stubborn
conflict
Zelensky, too.
and
He's calling Zelensky stubborn when he's defending himself,
as
and always has. That's all he wanted was a democratic
I've
country
known him very well. And
and
I
NATO
went through a lot
help
of things with
to
him
fend off
because
Putin. That's all he's wanted.
Russia was, you know, the Russia hoax turned out to be a total hoax.
It's not a hoax.
New York
Why
Times,
aren't
they
you
got
putting
Pulitzer-Prize. They have to get back to
more
Pulitzer-Prize.
weapons
That's
in the
why
Ukraine to
they're
help
doing very poorly in
the
that
Ukraine?
lawsuit, but, you know, they wrote stories about how it
Because
was
Vladimir
false
Putin's your
and,
buddy.
you know, a lot of,
He's your friend.
Russian
He's got
post
something on
sources.
you.
I have gotten to see things that I was very surprised at. Rockets being shot into
yeah. While you're president,
cities.
if you were president, this war would never happen. It's
During a
upscaled
negotiation that I felt was
exponentially
very
since
close
you've
to
been
ending.
president
We,
because you've
solved
enabled
problems.
Vladimir
All of a sudden,
Putin.
rockets
He's
got
your
shot
friend.
into a couple of cities
He
and
keeps
people
on
died.
sending bigger
I saw things I was
onslaughts
surprised at.
every week.
So, and I don't like being surprised. So I'm very disappointed in that way. With that being said, I'd like to see it end. 5,000 people, I think the number's even more than that, but 5,000 people a week are being killed. Mostly soldiers, but also people that live in little
In the
cities and
Ukraine.
towns throughout
The Ukraine.
And I'd
They're
like to
killing
see that
innocent
stop.
people, not soldiers, innocent people, and he still is siding with
So many of the
Russia.
things that you're trying to do are held up in court right now. If the courts are going to
He's trying to subvert the Constitution. Everything he's done so far just about has been constitutionally wrong.
Look, it wasn't meant to be that way. If you look at the founders, you three groups, and they all had supposed to be pretty equal powers.
Harvard is right now having free online constitutional courses. Free online constitutional courses, and he's calling Harvard anti-American.
But you can't have a judge in Boston running foreign policy and
He knows the
places all over
Constitution.
country because he's got a liberal bent or he's a radical left person.
Sometimes they're
the executive branch
Trump
is for.
appointees.
You have checks and balances. But we had millions of people pour into our country, many criminals poured into our country, murderers, mental institutions.
If they're murderers, they stay where they're at
into our country.
because
And
they
if
don't
we
get caught.
and get them out quickly, could lose your country very easily. This is a bad, that anybody would allow this to happen to our country. You know, with all of the things, we took over inflation, we took over some wars, we took over a lot of problems that didn't exist when I was president.
And they've
None of them
gotten
existed.
worse.
We wiped out
The wars have
ISIS.
gotten worse.
Other than that, we had no wars.
Inflation has gotten
Putin was
worse.
never going to hit Ukraine. Israel would have never been attacked.
Baloney, they're
They got
still
attacked.
hitting the Ukraine, and you're
As you know, Iran
in
had no
office.
money.
You have
They
nothing
didn't
to.
have money
I'd
for
end them in
Hamas,
one
they
day.
didn't have money for Hezbollah,
You haven't
they had
ended
no
them in
money
one day. You've
whatsoever.
tried and
That
you've
was
tried
the-
and had to
all
walk
these
away
things
because
that
you
happened
can't
were
end the
happening
wars
without
there.
inflation.
What you have to do is support the Ukraine,
So it's very sad.
and you have to
when I
call a
came back,
ceasefire
The thing that
and stop
is the hardest is that they
having
allowed 21
Israel,
million people into our country,
who's your buddy,
and many of those
Netanyahu,
people
a right-wing
are stone cold criminals.
authoritarian,
They moved their
take
criminal
advantage of the
population
Palestinian
into the
people.
United States, and of all the things that are bad, I solved inflation. I believe already. I got the fuel prices down. The fuel prices came down. That's one of the reasons they screwed up the energy. They screwed up the cost of gasoline and oil and gas.
Baloney.
And you had tremendous inflation, the greatest inflation probably in the history of our country under Biden. And when people said, "Oh, but the economy was," no, the economy was terrible for the people because they couldn't afford the energy, and the energy brought everything else up. Energy is the big deal. But with all of that, we solved that already. In 4 months, we solved it. $1.99, $1.98 gasoline. First time people have seen that in a long time since my term. But
Meanwhile, it's almost $4 here in Alaska. It's not $1.99. Maybe in southern parts of Louisiana where people can't pay that much,
their leaders are very street smart.
right next to the oil wheels and refineries, but everywhere else it's not $1.99. Everywhere else it's more. That's bullshit.
Working hard. They want people that are in jails. We have them. They allow them to come in. And I always look to the other side, like, why would somebody do something? In business, I try and study, why would they want to do this? Why would they want to sell it? Why would they want to buy it? One thing I can't figure out is, what would an administration, what were they thinking when they allowed millions of people from prisons all over the world, not just
That's
from
a
South
lie.
America, Venezuela.
That's a lie.
all over
There's
the world, from
look
the
it up.
Congo,
I've looked it up.
in Africa.
The Congo,
Hundreds of people,
Uganda,
thousands of people from the Congo.
never.
Rough prisoners from Asia, from
I've
Europe,
looked it up.
rough parts of Europe.
Look it up. These are all lies.
Why would they allow
All
them to come into
lies.
our country? Why would they
Those
do that?
are lies.
It's the one
Flat
thing I
out,
can't figure
blatant
out.
lies. Look it up.
And
Look it
I
up.
don't believe it was Joe Biden. I
He's
really
just
don't.
got
he's
diarrhea
been
of the
a sort
mouth
a moderate person
and
over
blaming
his
Joe
life. Very
Biden for
smart person.
lies.
But somewhat vicious person, I will say. If you feel sorry for him, don't feel so sorry because he's vicious. What he did with his political opponent and all of the people that he hurt, he hurt
He's
a lot
vicious.
of people. Biden.
Joe Biden.
And so I really don't feel sorry for him. But
who's got a
he
bad
wasn't
back,
a person that
stuttering.
would allow
He's stuttered ever
immigrants to
since he
come
was a
into our
kid.
country. He wasn't a person that was in favor of transgender for anybody that wanted it. Take kids out of families, etc., etc. So I just don't understand why
He takes kids
why
away
a thing
from
like
families.
This, how a thing like this could have been allowed to happen.
He does.
Very sad. It's very sad for our country.
What is he talking about?
I think the fundamental moral flaw of the left is empathy for the criminals and not empathy for the victims. Empathy for the criminals, but not empathy for the victims. And there's been way too much of that. That needs to stop. To the president's point,
That's
there's been
bullshit.
Immense judicial overreach.
Empathy for the guys who attacked the Capitol.
That was never intended. And it's undermining the people's faith in the legal system. It needs to stop. It's gone too far.
And just today, we had, just a couple of hours ago, we had a great decision from the Supreme Court, thank goodness, that was very important. We had two important decisions yesterday on the tariffs, because again, we have to be able to fight a fair fight with other countries. Howard, would you say?
Subverting the
We have to be able
Constitution.
to use tariffs to fight people that use tariffs on us. I mean, if we didn't have that power of tariffs, we would economically be destroyed as a country, because they would
Congress
destroy us. Other
alone
countries would
has
destroy
the
us
power to
with
institute
unchecked
tariffs on other
We can check
countries.
them when we have the use. They tried to take that.
So that's
that power
going to
away
court.
from
It's
us.
going to go
And
to
we
the
take
Supreme
that power
Court.
away, we're not going to have a country. We won't have an economically viable country. But it's very important on immigration that we be able to get people out without having to go through a long court case. I mean, it was up to some of these judges. Every single one of these millions of people, criminals, prisoners that were let go from jails.
That's a
because
lie.
They saved a fortune when they did. They brought them into the United States.
That's
You
a
know what
lie.
they're saving? The
Show
money
me
they're
the
saving.
buses, show me the itinerary, show me the release forms, show me all that. That's a lie. There's no such thing. That's just hyperbole lies.
And those countries take them, because if they don't take them, they have to go through the.
And then they
rack
take
of the
prisoners
United
back.
States, and they
It
take
makes
them.
no sense.
But we
Because then they
judges
release
don't
them.
want that to happen.
What did it? Release them and then they take them and then they
It's a
release them?
terrible thing.
That makes no
And
sense.
that's going through the court system right now, that whole situation.
It makes
But
no sense.
when ICE and with Border Patrol, they've done an incredible job. When they do this incredible job, and they
It's the
capture
Gestapo.
100
It's the
killers
Gestapo in
and
hoods.
dealers and-
If you had white hoods on them, it would be the same thing. Because they're getting rid of Latino and brown people.
We know who they are, and we're very careful about who they are, but we have to get them out.
You're very careful about not deporting white people, but you're importing white people.
One or two more. Go ahead.
Are you concerned that tariff may also affect companies like Tesla, which has parts manufactured abroad? And this is also to you, Mr. Musk.
Well, he's going to end up building his whole car here. I mean, I thought he built his whole car. Pretty much he does. He's got incredible factories, and like I looked at one in Texas. It's unbelievable. And no, all of the manufacturers will build their parts here too. I mean, it used to bother me. They make a
Good luck
a
on
part
that.
in Canada, a part in Mexico, a part in
Good luck
Europe,
on that.
sent all over the place, and nobody knew what the hell was happening. I think it's ridiculous. You build a car
Because
make it
they
in
were making them
America.
already.
I gave them a little leeway on that, gave them some leeway. But over the next year, they've got to have the whole thing built in America. That's what we want. We want America to buy American-built cars. Thank you very much, everybody.
Watch. Get out. Get out. Get out. Keep going. Get out.
You know, she always says keep going.